Hello and welcome everyone to the stream. We are already into a Protoss versus Protoss. We got Rail versus Shadown on Pillars of Gold, and already some interesting things happening. In the bottom left, not walling off the ramp, we do have blue Protoss Wardy's Rail. In the top right, walling off the ramp, eventually, it is the red Protoss Shadown. So Pillars of Gold is a map. It is the map for the early expands. So you have people, early scouting with a probe to stop the opponent's early expansion, which can happen for both sides. So both people, want to go for a 1-gate expand or a Nexus first, and then neither one can. That can be an awkward time. Shadown actually gets a little bit ahead here. So he scouts and actually sees that his opponent, after he blocks the Nexus, right, was actually planning on going for a 1-gate expand, and knows that probe block was pretty successful, and that it's not exactly ideal for Rail to go into a normal 2-gate opener against now what is Shadown going for a Nexus first. By the time Rail really has a lot of firepower, Shadown will have already kind of covered all of his tracks with the help of the high ground natural. So already something a little bit more interesting for PvP happening. Rail does slap down a second pylon, as you would expect, but then also slaps down not exactly a faster third pylon, but this third pylon oftentimes would be here, for instance. It'd be, one on here, one on here, and then a third one down that low ground, but it's a little bit weirder because, well, he didn't even wall off. So slapping down that third pylon in proxy or more hidden anyways for a robo. Now that's actually not too much closer to his opponent, but obviously is going to provide that ability to actually punish Shadown for what he's done, which is a Nexus first, or just in general, honestly, because a non-scouted 3-gate or 2-gate robo, whatever, 3-gate robo is going to be, it can hit anyone pretty hard, right? But especially someone who's trying to get away with this natural Nexus. So let's see if Shadown picks up on this. He should already be a little suspicious with the probe coming back in and seeing no natural Nexus. If he saw the third gateway, it's not too far of a reach to say there's a robo somewhere as well. So that's actually a perfect scout from Shadown. And Rail's going to do what we see a couple times, actually. This can also happen with a Stargate, funnily enough, but yeah, it's going to happen with a robo. A little bit of shield battery on shield battery action. At this point, Pillars of Gold has been played out a lot in PvP, so I think Shadown is kind of expecting something like this. On top of the scouting, I think he's also just faced this before. And then this probe might have seen that pylon building. Yeah, it did. So there you go. Now everyone knows what's up. Question is, can Shadown actually hold? He's got 7 more workers after losing, I guess, the one scouting and one that was back here. So he can actually pull probes if it gets desperate, but if he has to pull probes, it means he's lost his robo and his 7x force. That wouldn't be too good. Single shield battery is prepared. It's going to be target fire down, which means the robo is going to live a long and healthy life and at least pump out 1 immortal. Shield battery number 2 is also going to be target fired, so no shield battery overcharge, but the immortal pops out with a second one immediately chronoed, and more shield batteries on the way. Thank you very much, Basher Slice, for the 11-month resub. Things are getting heated already, so just wanted to shout that out before things actually get determined. A sentry goes down, and that could be pretty important. A Guardian Shield now missing, or a crucial force field to help pop the Stalker forward. Speaking of which, oh my god, Warp Gate is denied. No Stalkers, no sentries. Oh no, and the Immortal, the force field is what I was actually going to speak of for Rail. He popped in 1 sentry, and the force field could have popped the opposing Immortal forward, which is exactly what Shadown would have wanted to do for, it's PvP, right? Both of you want to actually pop some important unit forward to the force field. It worked out so much better for Rail, who also grabbed the 7x core just a half a second before Warp Gate was down. That is pretty insane. And Shadown will have to wait for another 7x core to be built, and then Warp Gate's actually finished, have Warp Gate. So I think at this point you just don't get Warp Gate. You just continually pump out units from just regular old gateways, which is quite a difficult thing to do. So Shadown's under a ton of pressure. I guess that now it is worth mentioning that at this point he could pull probes if he thought there was an opportunity, but with now 3 sentries, possibly in many force fields for Rail, I'm not sure going down the ramp is really an option anymore. So many shield batteries is built for Rail as well. Obviously it's harder for Shadown to take care of that. And, he never got his own chance to get his own immortal. Oh, his Warp Prism? Oh, there it is. So I was like, yeah, you really should have gotten a Warp Prism. So unfortunately, he doesn't have the 3 immortals like he would have loved, but 2 immortals on a warp prism. Magic has happened with that exact set of units. And the 3rd immortal is going to be on the way. It's really all of his production right now, since he's very rarely making from his gateways. Now a sentry is on the way very slowly. Forceful this time, not going to find the same luck. 3rd immortal is about to pop out. Rail really wants to push this issue. He sees so few units, but the micro ability is still very high for both of these players. And Shadown is desperately trying to hold this high ground. His shield batters are mostly out of juice. 2 more are on the way, but Rail is continuing to push forward. A single sentry pops out in support of that production, but an immortal has gone down. Another immortal is getting awfully weak. Both of their shields have gone away, and the shield batteries are out of range of the immortals, but going really deep for the immortals actually does not net Rail either one of them, and they're going to go back on top of that robo, which is now being healed by the shield battery, but maybe not enough, or maybe just enough. A 3rd immortal will in fact pop out to once again help out with the warp prism microing, yet still Shadown has a chance. That's actually a crazy hold. 1 immortal very, 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 very low, but going to live. Robo finally gets taken out as Warp Gate finishes up at 7 minutes for Shadown. I don't even know where he planted that 7x, where the action has been way too heated on the front lines. Of course, Rail is entirely all in on this, right? Like, he's going to be mining out a mineral soon, and his production will get lower, but Shadown, oh man, what a relief to finally have Warp Gate. Actually going for a couple of adepts was going to tank a lot of shots, and actually Rail's going to tap out. He realizes he can't actually break through in time. GG. What a hold. What a very, very, very crazy close game. GG. Welcome to the cast. That was a fun first game. I mean, Shadown getting his warp gate canceled was, I mean, huge, but I thought when he was getting low on those immortals, when they were down to the red, I was like, ooh, this might be it. The barely holds, the paying attention to the, robo, as it was getting low, and actually shield battering that. Shield batterying? It's gotta be a faster way to say that. Recharging it? We'll say that. Excuse me, kitty. Cat's blocking the view from the chat. I don't want to miss the lobby link. Okay, bye-bye. Just long enough to bother me, you know. That's all cats do. How is everyone? Lovely Monday. I got up and went to the gym. Not really into running as much as I was earlier this year, though. I kind of got back into it, proved to myself that I could get back into it. Did the couch to 5K, and I was like, eh. So I'm back in a hardcore weightlifting. It's fun. Time to get swole again. There's 2 options for coming out of COVID, you know. It's having the COVID 20 pounds of fat or the COVID 20 pounds of muscle. I guess it'd be COVID 19 pounds of muscle, wouldn't it? Anywho, just enough time to get into the second game. Ice and Chrome. In the bottom left, after a barely unsuccessful 3-gate robo attack, it is Rail down 1. And in the top right, it is the Red Protoss, Shadown, who is very much so barely able to hold on. That was... I mean, a couple things could have gone better. Yeah, sure, like if Warp Gate was done, you actually finished on time, maybe that's like really not a close game at all, but things also could have gone a lot worse. If he had not shield batteried his robo, for instance, doesn't have that what ultimately ended up being like the 5th immortal. Like I kept on saying 3rd immortal because I meant like in total that was what was alive that was being used, but I think in total it was like his 5th or 6th immortal. Then that's a big problem. Because his 2 immortals that were left were very, very low. But it's kind of a played out experience on Pillars of Gold a little bit, with the flexibility of that probe block. You know, it can't always be 100% what's going to happen because, you know, honestly, Rail could have also done his own Pylon Scout and then block Shadown's Nexus first. And then that game is obviously way different. Way different. But, yeah, if you do have one person go for a faster Nexus, another person either get blocked or just like they thought they couldn't do it at all, you know, for the typical 2 gateway. Yeah, we've seen that situation before. We've seen the proxy pylon with the shield batteries. As I mentioned, it can happen with the Stargate as well, but that's a little funnier. So proxy versus proxy, both of them actually keeping their probes here. Rail, I guess they're both going to go for Stargates, even though Shadown's Stargate would be in a much more lethal area. Yeah, he's gonna hit maybe like, 6 seconds faster or something like that. I'll try to remember to count it, see if I'm right about it. But it's gonna hit faster because, you know, presumably the rest of the build is actually gonna look pretty much identical, down to the chronos even. Maybe a little less than identical. We actually got Warp Gate being delayed a little bit more for Shadown. Actually gotta pay attention to what that means. To get into Stalkers faster? Is that what that means? Because I know they're going to have a chrono on the Stargate regardless. The Ancient Lena 2 Adepts there, and then Shadown might be waiting for a little bit more confirmation before deciding. Oracle obviously going to come out. But yeah, you still can't get 2 Stalkers. Well, I guess you still get a little bit faster. Huh, I don't know. That's for the post-analysis, I suppose, but... certainly without getting the additional 2 units, going up to a total of 4, he does get a much faster Nexus, and that totally makes sense. But I'm just wondering about the Warp Gate. We actually still don't have Warp Gate started at all, so this is a... And I'm really questioning it, but we'll see. So faster Oracle with the second one immediately popped out as well. Shield Battery is done for Rail as he realized the potential of this, even without actually being able to scout it. Adept War actually doesn't seem to be going too well for Shadown. I mean, that makes sense, especially because Rail is getting 4 Adepts, and Shadown only got 2. Oracle is going to go ahead and try and zap the energy of the Shield Battery, and that is a bit interesting. That seemed intentional to leave the Oracle doing that. I mean, with the Shield Battery overcharge, it didn't end up mattering at all, but... Alright, Shield Battery back at home on this side as well. Let's see if Rail goes for attack or stasis. He goes for the attack. Stasis Trap from Shadown's was that a second Oracle. And this one eventually will regain the energy too. And that'll be a threat. A couple probes locked in stasis. Alright, so on this side, finally, this is what can happen if you don't overcharge. You can actually bust through the Shield Battery energy reserves, and if you don't pay attention as the Shadown here, you can see that even after the Shield Battery did its job for the first 90% of its life, like 8 probes instantly went down after it actually ran out of energy. So it's actually a pretty good pickup for Rail. I mean, Shadown's natural Nexus is a bit faster, but it's always difficult to say exactly like, oh, I can chrono out both Nexus. That's now what Shadown is getting into. So comes out a little bit ahead regardless of the kills, thanks to that natural Nexus. But Rail is also already invested into a couple other more important things here. So Warp Gate, for instance, is already done for Rail. Blink is already on the way with a Robo as well. Now that Robo, I think, just means aggression. If he's going to go into, like, hardcore macro, I think, first of all, we'd see double pro production pretty consistently, which is a little late, too. They just be focusing on the Adepts, as they do grab maybe 2 probes? Not quite, not even. Oracles help out a ton against those Adepts. But, anyways, we'll see, double pro production, maybe a Chrono on the Nexus, but we'd also see a Forge, most importantly. It's Twilight Council and a Forge, especially if you are fairly certain that they are not going for a Dark Shrine attack. So it could be that Rail is like taking this seriously. Like, I don't know actually what my opponent had. He only just got in on the timing of the Twilight Council, for instance. And then he might not use his Robo for very much more after this until we get to Disruptors. But with the Proxy Pylon also going down, oh, that was an Oracle. Okay, so that was just entirely my bad. The Oracle has been stationary for so long, I legitimately thought it was a pylon. I thought it was going to be aggressive, but no, actually. And that Oracle could be a big deal. Being alive and well, I mean, it can't really do very much against the economy, but it could see that it is, in fact, a Dark Shrine. Shadown has gotten into the main base of his opponent multiple times with his oracles and saw that it was a Twilight Council first, so might be hoping that it is a later Robo. Has gotten back in, though, and saw that, in fact, Robo is done, and presumably at least one observer is out. So the Dark Shrine, not really going to net him very much right now, but even with that in mind, even if there's not, like, a free win right here, right now, I still think that having that Dark Shrine is going to work out fine. I didn't mean to rhyme, but it happened. Oh, barely saves that one Oracle. Is going to work out eventually, right? When you go into Blink Stalker, Disruptor Wars, you're going to want a Dark Shrine, but might not get the damage he was really hoping for. Maybe if he waits a little while. I mean, Rail doesn't know that Dark Shrine is here. That Oracle still has not swooped back in for any scouting, but Rail, I mean, I was like, okay, maybe he does like an Immortal Blink push, where he actually is like warping in consistent with his warp gates. But, finds both DTs and tries to body block them. Ooh, works for one of the DTs, but the other one's not going to get very much done anyways. But no, still, not a Warp Prism, actually even posturing for a third. So this lack of Forge is still a little bit confusing for me. Shadown also pushed off the Forge heavily, but I think, like, there's certainly a lot to be said about the openings here. No one really quite got into a perfect, macro, no rush, everything's fine, because, I mean, obviously it was opening with Proxy Stargate. But Shadown going into a Forge, feel a little bit better for his future. Rail still not even bothering to get one. It also means he won't have any cannon defense against possible DTs in the future, like, I mean, the near future. But you could try and do something, but Shadown actually going into his third Nexus is going to be attacked. I mean, Rail's going for his third Nexus, but, stopping at the 45 probes, saturated on 2 bases, and if his push doesn't work, then he can just go back home. I mean, if he gets the third base of Shadown, he's actually already gotten quite a big victory. So Rail is going to do a push. It was later than I expected, and Shadown not only has his own Blink, he also has a couple of Archons thanks to his DT ability. That is going to be a pretty good stasis trap, since there's a bit of oversaturation now occurring. So nicely done for Rail. With Archons, you can also break through these force fields. It could be a really big help. Currently 17 Softfish to 17. Overcharge of the shield battery, though, is going to be very helpful. Not too bad of a concave for really either side, but the Immortals not quite getting the most amazing shots they would like, so I feel like Shadown's going to be perfectly fine here. And Rail's actually maybe going to try and posture for a different position, warping in a lot more Stalkers. There isn't any complexity here, just kind of going for the brute force attempt. There is only one shield battery, and the overcharge has been used. The Oracle even trying to get on the action, decides, no, I can't. Yes, I can. At least pop the Immortal shields, right? Archons are both down. Charge Lot's not really an effect here. Charge is about to finish, but no Zealots. Now Shadown is trying to warp those in. He's going to target fire down the 2 Immortals, and now it's just the Stalker Wars, which currently Rail has double the amount of Stalkers, and that is pretty good for him. As the charge lot numbers start to come in, they do complicate the micro for Rail a little bit, but it looks like sheer numbers has actually worked out. I mean, Shadown, if he had a couple more seconds, a couple more warp-ins, it could have been very, very different, but just barely lacking enough units, and the shield battery still not able to be overcharged. A stasis trap, actually, kind of helpful, and shield overcharge does finally come into effect again, but it's just Stalker numbers. It is just pure Stalker numbers. All the Zealots have been depleted, so they're not really getting any good swipes in or soaking up a lot of damage. Probes are going to be pulled, but he can only lose so many before Rail considers this a victory. +1 has been done for Shadown for a little while, which is certainly contributing to the fight. It's why he's hanging on for so long. An aggressive blink forward from Shadown as he realizes maybe this is my chance. Maybe the probes have just barely done it. A couple of more Zealot weapons as well, and Rail has not pushed through. Once again, barely denied victory as Shadown's defense holds on the third base this time. GG. Damn, I really thought Rail was going to push in. He was doubling the amount of Stalkers at one point, but I guess shield overcharge is a hell of a drug. And,